Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. This week our special guest is a guest that's no stranger to politics here in Abilene in the Big Country, candidate for House District 71 State Representative, Ms. Liz Case. Liz, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, it's, this feels like the Royal Rumble, if you will, with so many candidates in this race, 8. It's just, you pick what wrestling character you want to be at that point. I'll laugh at Nonetheless, yes. So you challenged Stan Lambert, and you gave him every bit of run he could handle. We'll get to a lot of the issues that you're running on in a bit, but tell me the why to do this all over again.
Well, that's pretty much an easy one for me because I've been doing this for years. In particular, I've been going down to Austin for the last 10 years, and I've just seen that our conservative values are not being represented in Austin, which is no surprise. Austin is not a conservative place. But when I went down there 10 years ago, I found that our politicians, not just Stan in all fairness, but all the politicians will stand in front of you and they'll tell you how conservative they are. But when they go to Austin, they do whatever it is they want to do. They're not voting, especially from the Big Country. We've got conservative Christian values here, and those are not being represented in Austin. And I think, of anything, after last week, there's been a real call for people to stand up for their conservative Christian values. Now, that's something that some of us have been doing for a long time, but I was at the fair last week all week, and I talked to hundreds of people who are upset because our values are not being represented in Austin, and they want that to change, and they want it to change now.
Now, in the last primary, you did fairly well in Callahan, Jones, Nolan County. Taylor County is the area that really kind of tipped the apple cart here in favor of Stan Lambert. What was the biggest takeaway from that? I do want to get into what you're hearing from constituents, but what was the biggest takeaway that you from that last election, that last primary?
Well, we had a 4-term incumbent. Stan had been there a long time, and we came within 625 votes. We had a very short time window, and when we did the analysis afterwards, what we found was that 4,000 Democrats had crossed over to vote. Now, I can't complain about that because the way we have things set up, we allow them to do that. But that was the difference, really, that tipped the scale in that election. So we have changed our rules as far as a Republican Party. We didn't do a legislative change this session, but the party has changed their party rules. And we know that in 14 other states that has happened. And when there's been a legal challenge on that, the party is always ruled in favor of because they are a private entity. So I don't believe that will work its way through the courts before this primary happens. So we'll be probably in the same position. I think the difference will be this time that we have 2 challengers that will be running as Democrats. So there may be somebody for them to vote for on that side.
Sure.
So we'll see how things turn out this time.
Well, last time around, you had the support of Governor Greg Abbott. You had the support of Donald Trump, the endorsement of Donald Trump, President Trump, and a lot of backing, a war chest, if you will. I assume that may not be there this time around. Who knows? We still have a lot of time between now and the primary, or as we get closer to that. Are you prepared to kind of move forward with that and knowing that, hey, that support may not be there? Can you still be able to wrangle in some of that support that you had, with all that came with the primary last time around?
Well, I've been real pleased with the support that I've gotten and the encouragement that I've gotten, because when Stan started putting out some signals that he might not be running again, I started getting phone calls from Austin. people saying, he talked to some people the other day and indicated he might not be running. Do you realize that? Do you know that? We want you to get in this race. We need you down there with us. We need some more conservative fighters. So we want you in this race. So I was down there testifying during special session, and I was being asked to run by many people in Austin. So I've been touched by the support that I've gotten, but I think that's just a function of being down there so much and so often. People in Austin know that I'm a fighter who's been working down there for a long time. So I've been pleased with the support that I've gotten so far. I will be in Austin at the end of this week having some meetings, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Being able to, listen to the people here in House District 71, and then being able to listen to what's going on in Austin, how is there a way to make both of those work? Because I know that's something that's been, that's what I've talked about with Jay Hardaway and Eddie Pugh. I'll ask you that. Is there a way to make that work?
I definitely think so. We're getting more conservative legislators in Austin, and they're really beginning to work together in a way that I haven't seen in the last 10 years. And to me, that's very encouraging. We're seeing a coalition of groups working together. In particular, we're seeing some of the West Texas legislators begin to work together. And I think that's important because we've got some real important issues in West Texas. We talk about things like protecting kids, education, and things like that, but we've got some particular issues that we're going to have to start focusing on. I'm not a huge agriculture expert, but we do have a ranch, and that's something that we do. And I started looking at some agriculture bills this session and found some that I was concerned about and ended up lobbying on some of those because I saw some things that I was very concerned about. Food security is national security. We really are going to have to start focusing on that. The water is a huge issue for us, and that's something that's going to have to be focused on. Besides, who is buying up our land? We've got foreign countries that are not just buying up land next to our military bases, but they're buying up massive swaths of our farmland. And we've got some concerns. I don't think people understand that there are only 4 meatpacking companies left in the United States, and only one of those is owned by the U.S. So we need to really start paying attention to what's going on and be making plans to be protecting our citizens.
We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. When we come back, more with Liz Case, candidate for House District 71 State Representative. We're talking about some of the issues she's passionate about and some of the issues she's perhaps running on heading into the March 2026 primary. That and more after the break.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Tell me, what are you particularly passionate about? Because there's no more school choice to really argue about because that's now been decided and defined here in the state of Texas. What are you particularly passionate about?
Well, you say that, but one of the first things that I heard when I started up this process was that will still be an issue because the governor is very interested in making sure his initiative doesn't get undone. But to me, having been an educator for more than a decade and coming from an education family, education is always going to be important. And they did make headway on school choice. But what we need to understand is we've got 5.5 million children in the state of Texas. And a small percentage of those children were included in that school choice package. So we know that 95% of the students in Texas were still not touched by that. They're still in public school. And we have a long way to go to fix our public schools. They did get a significant amount of funding, and that's a good thing. But I think there's a lot that still needs to be done to help our public schools and the students that are in public schools.
What would you suggest for assisting public schools?
Well, I think it will be interesting to see what they're going to do. They have gotten rid of the STAR test. They did that in the last special session.
Changed the name.
They changed the name, which is not much of a help to change the name. They have broken it down into 3 separate tests, which is wise to not wait till the end of the year to see if the students are learning. But what they did was they took the rulemaking authority away from the State Board of Education and gave it to the TEA. So what you're doing is you're taking the authority away from the people that we elect and giving it to bureaucrats who are unelected, which, as a rule, I think is a bad idea. And then Mike Morath, who's in charge of the TEA, will have the ability to take that $400 million contract and award it to whatever company he sees fit. So we still need to see what company is going to be chosen, what this will look like. And they're talking about using a national company.
Would you eliminate or make a push to eliminate a standardized test?
I would make a push to get rid of the way we are testing now, because the way we are testing now is done on a statewide basis and a nationally normed basis. And I think we need to go back to giving the teachers much more autonomy in their classrooms.
You mentioned, in the first segment, how you perform pretty well in the outlying counties of this area, certainly Jones, Callahan, Nolan counties. What are you hearing the most from folks in those areas? Or certainly here in Taylor County. You said you were, at the fair.
Well, I think we've put to bed the rumor that I don't live here in town.
Yes, do you live here or not?
Yes, I actually do live here. I lived here for 8 years before I decided to run for office. So I think that one has been put to bed. And, I'm really hearing from parents that they're concerned about what's going on in the schools. I had a parent bring to me something that his daughter had found she's in Holly ISD, and he showed me on his phone what that book was. And I said, that is disturbing. I said, but I hate to tell you this. I said, that is one of the more benign things that I've seen come out of our Texas education system. I said, the things that are in our school libraries, I said, I would not show you here in mixed company. I said, I've seen things that I wouldn't show to my husband. The level of pornography that is in our Texas schools is unbelievable. I have seen things as a grown married woman that I cannot unsee. And there's no way that you can make an argument that that stuff is educational. And we have not been able to get it out of our schools. And that is because of the obscenity exemption. And that's something we're fighting hard to get rid of. We came very close this session, but it has not happened, and it's got to be taken care of.
Is that something you would push?
100%.
Why should someone, a constituent, a voter, take a chance on you for state representative?
Well, to me, that's pretty easy. I'm the candidate who's been doing this job for the last 10 years. I've been going down to Austin, working on legislation. I've been going down on my own dime, on my own time, working on the issues that matter to the people in the big country. There were a lot of people that were surprised that after I didn't win my election, that I continued to go down to Austin. And that was kind of perplexing to me, because these issues, this is not a stepping stone to me. This is not something I'm doing because I want a title. This is something I do because these issues are too important for us not to work on. This is something that we've got to focus on, because what happens in Austin is important to our kids and our grandkids. They're issues that affect your life and my life every day. So these are things that I've been able to be effective on, and I will be more effective on if I'm a legislator and have a staff to help me work on them. So I'm the only one who has ever worked on any of these issues and ever been to Austin. So I've got the experience, I have the connections, and I'm ready to start day one and walk into the role and have the experience.
Yeah. Well, Liz, I appreciate your time. Best of luck to you down the road.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me in.
Yes, ma'am. All right. For Liz Case, candidate for House District 71 State Representative, I'm Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.